Did Shing Yu's award speech just shatter industry norms, or was it a calculated move that none of us were prepared for? Her recent acceptance speech has sent shockwaves across the entire entertainment world, leaving insiders whispering behind closed doors and fans fighting in crowded comment sections. What exactly did she say that caused such an intense division? Stay with us until the end and make sure you subscribe right now, because the truth you are about to hear is far more emotional and far more controversial than anything released to the public. The auditorium glowed with a warm golden light as the ceremony host stepped forward, calling Shen Yu's name. There was a moment of complete silence before the crowd erupted into applause. Her film had dominated the awards season, and everyone knew she would win, yet something about the atmosphere felt different that night. It was as if every person in the room sensed a storm approaching. Shen Yue walked onto the stage slowly, gracefully, her white gown shimmering under the lights. Her expression was calm, yet anyone who looked closely could see it. A heaviness behind her eyes. A tension in her breath. Something she had carried for far too long. She reached the microphone and paused, just for a second too long. Enough for the cameras to zoom in. Enough for every fan watching at home to lean closer to their screens. Then she began. Her voice was soft at first, delicate, but each word carried an unusual weight. She thanked her team, her fans, her colleagues. It sounded normal. Ordinary. Expected. The kind of acceptance speech that blends into the dozens spoken every award season. But then she stopped again. And the entire energy shifted. She lifted her head, looked out across the hall, and spoke with a tone no one had ever heard from her before. A tone filled with exhaustion and truth. A tone that would split the industry in half. She said she had been silent for too long. She said the industry was beautiful but also painful. She said she had been hurt by people who pretended to care for her. She said she had been lied to, pushed, controlled, and judged for things she never did. She said she was done pretending. Gasps echoed around the room. People exchanged glances. Some leaned forward in their seats. Others shifted uncomfortably. Cameras flashed without stopping. Shen Yue continued. Her words were no longer careful. They were raw. Direct. Emotional. She talked about nights she cried alone in her apartment. About scenes she filmed while hiding injuries from the pressure of long hours. About the loneliness that comes from being adored by millions but not truly understood by anyone. She thanked her co-stars by name, but not all of them. That small detail alone caused uproar. She praised some for their support and loyalty, but her silence toward others was deafening. It was intentional. And everyone knew it. The audience was frozen. Some were nodding, some were stunned, and some looked offended. Then she said the line that would ignite one of the largest debates in the industry. She said she would rather lose roles than lose herself again. A few people clapped. Others stayed silent. A few whispered to one another with visible tension. Shen Yue tried to smile, but her voice trembled as she finished. She thanked those who stood by her during her darkest days. She thanked her fans for never giving up on her. And then she said something that made even the host widen his eyes. She said this award was not a celebration but a reminder. A reminder that she survived. When she walked off the stage, the applause was uneven. Some cheered loudly. Others hesitated. Some barely clapped at all. Backstage, the chaos erupted instantly. Agents rushed around whispering into phones. Producers exchanged heated words. Actors tried to hide their reactions as reporters swarmed the hallway. Within minutes, online platforms exploded with debates and theories. Some praised Shen Yue for her honesty. They called her brave. Powerful. A voice the industry desperately needed. Others called her ungrateful. Unprofessional. Reckless. They said she had exposed too much. That she made the industry look broken. That she crossed a line. Clips from her speech were uploaded everywhere. Every pause. Every breath. Every emotional crack in her voice was analyzed by millions. But the real storm unfolded in the private messages and closed group chats of the entertainment world. Some of her co-stars were angry. Some were worried. Others were heartbroken, realizing her silence had been hiding deeper pain than they ever imagined. One actor she had worked with years ago wrote a long response online saying her speech reminded him of everything he had suffered but never said aloud. Another star hinted that her words would inspire change. A famous director posted a single sentence that said everything. Truth is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Yet a powerful producer posted something far colder. A vague message that sent fear through the industry. It simply said, "Some people forget who gave them a platform." Tension grew. Sides formed. Rumors multiplied. Meanwhile, Shen Yue sat alone in her dressing room, her gown gathered around her feet, her hands clasped tightly. The applause outside had faded. The world was reacting. And she did not know whether she had just freed herself or destroyed her future. Her phone vibrated non-stop. Messages poured in. Some supportive. Some furious. Some from her closest friends telling her they were proud of her courage. Others from people she trusted warning her that she had made powerful enemies. But then came the message that stopped her breath. It was from someone she had not spoken to in a very long time. Someone who had once mattered to her more than anyone else in the industry. He wrote one simple line. "I finally understand what you were trying to tell me." Her eyes softened. Her chest tightened. And for the first time that night she let herself breathe. Outside the dressing room door her manager knocked softly. "The world is waiting for your next move," she said. Shen Yue stood up slowly, meeting her reflection in the mirror. Her speech had shaken everything. Nothing would be the same after tonight. She took a deep breath and whispered to herself. Then let it change. This was only the beginning. The stage lights dimmed slowly as Shen Yue walked backstage with her award still pressed tightly against her chest. Her steps were steady at first, but the moment she reached the dark corner of the hallway where no cameras could find her, her knees trembled. The weight of her own words finally sank in. She leaned against the cold wall and exhaled deeply, as if her entire soul had been poured out in front of thousands just minutes before. The chatter behind the velvet curtains grew louder. Staff members whispered, directors stood with stiff shoulders, and co-stars exchanged looks filled with questions. Some admired her courage. Some were angry. Some simply did not know what to think. Yet the noise never reached her. For a moment, the world around her was silent. Until she heard footsteps. It was Bai Lu. Her expression was unreadable. Her gaze steady. Her breathing slow. She stepped forward with a calmness that almost frightened the assistants nearby. Shen Yue lifted her face, unsure whether she was about to be hugged or confronted. Bai Lu did neither at first. She simply looked at Shen Yue the way an older sister would look at someone who had just jumped off a cliff without checking if there was water below. Shen Yue tried to smile, but her lips barely moved. Bai Lu finally spoke. Her voice was low, but every syllable carried weight. "You know you changed everything tonight." Shen Yue lowered her eyes. "I did not mean to start anything. I only spoke the truth." The hall fell silent again. Assistants pretended to look busy as they moved away to give them space. Bai Lu stepped closer. "The truth is powerful," she said. "But what you said out there, it will force people to choose sides." Shen Yue felt her throat tighten. "They were already choosing sides long before I said anything. I only revealed what everyone pretended not to see." For a moment, Bai Lu saw something rare in her. Not the shy girl who started her first drama with trembling hands. Not the rising actress fighting quietly for space. But someone who finally understood her own worth. And was brave enough to say it out loud. Before Bai Lu could answer, another voice cut through the tension. Dylan Wang. He approached with his jaw tense and his eyes clouded with something between frustration and awe. He stopped right in front of them, staring at Shing Yu as if she had turned their entire industry upside down with one breath. He crossed his arms. Do you realize what is happening outside? He said. Have you checked the reactions? Half the room is shocked. The other half is ready to defend you. Reporters are waiting at every exit. Shen Yue held the award tighter. Let them wait. I will not hide. Dylan narrowed his eyes. He wanted to argue. He wanted to protect her. He wanted to drag her out of the building before the media turned one sentence into 10 stories. But he also knew she was right. There was no going back. Then he said it. You just changed the entire industry with one speech. She inhaled slowly. Maybe it is time someone did. The silence that followed was almost sacred. A turning point neither of them could touch nor undo. Just then, the show host rushed backstage with panic in his steps. Shen Yue, the press conference is ready. Everyone is waiting. They want you to address the controversy. Shen Yue felt her heartbeat jump. Bai Lu placed a gentle hand on her arm. You can face them. Do not let fear speak for you. Dylan nodded once. If you go out there, go fully. Do not take even one word back. Shen Yue closed her eyes for a brief moment, gathering every fragment of courage she had left. Then she lifted her chin and walked forward. Each step echoed down the hallway like the beginning of a revolution. When she stepped into the press room, dozens of photographers shot bright flashes that painted the room in blinding light. The air was tense. Reporters were seated with raised hands, microphones pointed like arrows ready to launch. She stood behind the podium. Her voice did not tremble. Thank you for your questions. I know there is confusion. I know my speech caused waves. I will explain everything with clarity. The reporters leaned forward. Shen Yue continued. I spoke from my heart. I spoke for every actor who works silently in the shadows. I spoke for every person who gives everything but receives little recognition. I spoke for fairness. For honesty. For respect. If that divides the industry, then maybe we needed the division to see what is true. Her words hit the room like a storm. Even the cameras seemed to stop moving. She glanced at the crowd. I did not attack anyone. I only expressed what many have been afraid to say. If my speech brings discomfort, then perhaps it is time for conversations we avoided for too long. A reporter raised a hand. Are you afraid of the backlash? Shen Yue shook her head. Fear is normal. Silence is dangerous. Another reporter asked. Do you regret your speech? She answered quietly. No. Not for a moment. The room froze. The statement was bold. Final. Unshakable. As she stepped away from the podium, a small applause began from the back. More joined. Until half the room was clapping. Not out of pity. But out of respect. When Shen Yue walked backstage again, Bai Lu and Dylan were waiting. This time, they did not question her. They did not warn her. They only stood with her. Bai Lu placed a hand over her shoulder. You just did something no one else dared to do. Dylan smiled slowly. And now everyone must live with it. Shen Yue finally allowed her shoulders to relax. She looked down at her award. Tonight was not about trophies. It was about truth. She stepped toward the exit doors where the night air was cold and refreshing. As she walked out into the world, she knew everything had changed. Her future. Her reputation. The industry itself. Yet she felt lighter. Freer. Braver. This was not the end of her journey. It was the beginning of a new era. Her era. And as the cameras outside clicked wildly, Shen Yue lifted her head toward the lights and whispered under her breath. Let them talk. Let them debate. Let them divide. I spoke the truth. That is enough.